Sing it. Madhava Punjabi Hari and Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari and Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Mr. Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotra the Shishimada Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotra the Shishimada Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai and Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayeshva badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 16th day of November 2018 in SanDiego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Text, chapter number 8, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. And we're beginning this chapter. This is text number 1. Maitreya Uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatihi Naite grahan brahmasuta Yavasan urdvareta saha Maitreya uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatihi Naite grahan brahmasuta Suta Yavasan urdvareta saha Maitreya uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatihi Naite grahan brahmasuta Yavasan urdvareta saha. Das. Maitreya uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatahi Naite griham brahmasuta Yavasan urdvareta saha. Santosh. Maitreya uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatahi Naite grahan brahmasuta Yavasan urdvareta saha. Maitreya uvacha Sanakadhya naradascha Ribur-hangso runir yatahi Naite grahan brahmasuta Yavasan urdvareta saha. Maitreya uvacha Maitreya said, Sanaka adyaha, those headed by Sanaka, Naradaha, Narada, Cha, and Ribuhu, Ribu, Hangsaha, Hangsa, Arunihi, Aruni, Yatihi, Yati, Na, Nat, Ete, all these, Grihan, at home, Brahmasutaha, sons of Brahma, he, certainly, Avasan, did live, Urdvareta saha, unadulterated celibates. Translation. The great sage Maitreya said, so all of this is a conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, this whole fourth canto. The four great Kumara sages, headed by Sanaka, as well as Narada, Ribu, Hangsa, Aruni, and Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home, but became Urdvareta, or Naishtika brahmacharis, unadulterated celibates. Purport. The system of brahmacharya has been current since the birth of Brahma. A section of the population, especially male, did not marry at all. Instead of allowing their semen to be driven downwards, they used to lift the semen up to the brain. They are called urdvareta saha, those who lift the semen up. There's a mistake, word missing here, we'll be putting it in. Semen is so important that if by the yogic process one can lift the semen up to the brain, he can perform wonderful work. One's memory is enabled to act very swiftly, and the duration of life is increased. Yogis can thus perform all kinds of austerity with steadiness and be elevated to the highest perfectional stage, even to the spiritual world. Vivid examples of brahmacharis who accepted this principle of life are the four sages, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, as well as Narada and others. Another significant phrase here is Naite Grahan Yavasan. They did not live at home. Griha means home as well as wife. In fact, home means wife. Home does not mean a room or a house. One who lives with a wife lives at home. Otherwise, the sannyasi or brahmachari, even though he may live in a room or in a house, does not live at home. That they do not live at home means that they did not accept a wife, and so there was no question of their discharging semen. Semen is meant to be discharged when one has a home, a wife, and the intention to beget children. Otherwise, there is no injunction for discharging semen. These principles were followed from the beginning of creation, and such brahmacharis never created progeny. This narration has dealt with the descendants of Lord Brahma from Manu's daughter, Prasuti. Prasuti's daughter was Dakshayani, or Sati, in relation to whom the story of the Daksha Yajna was narrated. Maitreya is now explaining about the progeny of the sons of Brahma, the progeny of the sons of Brahma rather than... Oh, okay. Maitreya is now explaining about the progeny of the sons of Brahma. Out of the many sons of Brahma, the brahmachari sons headed by Sanaka and Narada did not marry at all, and therefore there is no question of narrating the history of their descendants. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Parampara. So, this verse is all about brahmacharya. And traditionally, brahmacharis were trained in the Gurukul. The sons of the higher classes, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, went to the Gurukul. And during the Gurukul years, which could last some time, they were living without any association with young girls. And they were trained in various disciplines, the most important of which was no sex, no discharging semen. Now, of course, Gurukul starts at a young age, so there's no question of it. But then even after puberty, you're meant to not discharge it. Now, the advantage is urdhvareta saha, that the semen then goes upward through the spinal column and affects the brain very nicely, so that you can remember things easier and perform other austerities. Now, that's the traditional way it happened. Rarely did you find the Naishtika brahmacharis who stayed celibate their whole lives. Generally, after some years in the Gurukul, maybe age 15, 20 so, they would ask permission from the Guru to go and marry. And Prabhupada says that such trained brahmacharis, when they married, then they were able to lead self-controlled household lives in general. So you can see how this culture is like just opposite to that. I mean, it's just horrifying what's going on in terms of younger and younger ages experiencing sex, and the internet. Everything is available. It's very, very difficult. So, and yet, Srila Prabhupada began this movement, and from the beginning there were brahmacharis. There were those who weren't getting married. There were young men who joined, and if they wanted initiation, had to follow these 4 regulative principles, and no illicit sex, and there weren't that many women around, so there was no sex. So how did that work? Because of the very powerful spiritual force of bhakti, especially centered on the chanting of the holy name, one gets the spiritual strength to practice these 4 regulative principles headed by no illicit sex life. The problem is that if one deviates in the practice, then those material desires can easily overwhelm one. And we've seen historically that it was rare that someone that joined and became a brahmachari stayed a brahmachari, or even stayed in the movement for 20, 30, 40 years. It's not so easy. But still, this is the standard Prabhupada set, and he was famous for that. And this is one of the reasons why he succeeded. He didn't water down the process. He said, okay, if you want to get married, you can get married, but these are the standards for marriage, and there's all kinds of restrictions there, and the purpose of sex life is having children and all those different things. So this was Prabhupada's strength. As soon as you start compromising core principles, then the power of the preaching is compromised and ultimately can be lost. So here we are in 2018 trying to practice brahmacharya. And I think that the most obvious benefit of practicing brahmacharya for us is just the lack of all the complications that take place from a wife and children. As soon as you get a wife, this famous verse from Rishabhdev, there's several brahmacharya verses, I can share them with you, famous ones that are really nice for helping you to keep your determination. So the first that comes to mind is the one from Lord Rishabhdev. Pungsastriya mutuni bhavametang tayo mato vidya grantamaho. Ata griha cheta sutapta vitta janasya moho yamahamameti. So as soon as you read this verse, you can tell this is the absolute truth. That as soon as there's the sex attraction between man and woman, this mituni bhavam is the whole mood and force of sex life that develops, which is rampant everywhere. So it's mituni bhavametam, tayamatol hridaya grantaman. And as soon as they actually engage in sex, then the knot in the heart is tied very, very tightly. So then, assuming that there's a marriage, or even not today, but assuming there's a marriage, then what happens? You have to have a place, griha. That today that's difficult enough. You have plenty of families on the street. You don't see them so much here, but in LA, which is where the homelessness is much worse, is horrible. They don't have a griha. But assuming you're living in a normal society, griha, kshetra. Now kshetra means field. Traditionally you'd have a little plot of land and you'd farm it. But it can also mean a job. It means anything to support the griha. Griha, kshetra. And then come children, sons, daughters, sutta. Apta is all your relatives. You don't just, traditionally you'd be part of a wider family. Expanded family, and to support it all, you need vitta, money. So all of this expands from the combination of men and women, and that's why women are called stri. They expand. They expand your concerns, your material concerns, your anxieties, your wealth. Hopefully, like that stri. And then the result of that, the last line, janasya moho yamahamameti. All of this generates illusion, characterized by false ego, surrounding aham mameti. I am this body and things in relation to the body or mind. So this is ordinary material consciousness. Now in Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada sometimes talked about grahastha brahmacharis, who actually live a very strict grahastha life, a very restricted sex life, and their purpose is Krishna consciousness. That was Prabhupada's ideal. That's what he hoped, that's what he preached for. That brahmacharya in its strictest sense actually, of course, means, as Prabhupada says here, living without a wife. Griha means home as well as wife. Even if you're living in a room or you have a little hut somewhere but there's no wife, then you can brahmacharya. You're not really a grahastha. So grahastha means all of these things I just mentioned from that phrase from Rishabhdev, that verse from Rishabhdev. So one of the advantages here, Prabhupada talks about urvaretasa, which is in the verse. Physiologically, there are so many benefits. The urvaretasa means that it goes to the brain, but also there's a great deal of health that is there from restraining the sex life. Prabhupada, I just heard a lecture. Prabhupada was talking about the camels, the asses. Those who never praise the Lord are praised by camels and asses and dogs. So the camel is famous for, in Prabhupada's menagerie, that they're chewing thorns and enjoying the taste. So this is a metaphor, this is an analogy for unrestrained sex life. You think you're enjoying, but every time you discharge semen, there's so much blood that goes in to make that semen, so you become weaker. And you're more prone to disease like that. But the camel thinks it's very nice. He doesn't realize that he's drinking his own blood. So unrestrained sex life means you're weakening your health, your memory, you're becoming prone to disease like that. it's a classic Shreyas and Preyas conundrum. The Preyas is there, the immediate pleasure, but the long-term effects are disastrous, both in a health sense as well as for spiritual life. So these famous brahmacharis, the four Kumaras, Narada Muni, Ribhu, Hamsa, others, they all meditated, they all lifted their semen up, and they all became great souls. Narada Muni is the sage amongst the demigods. The four Kumaras are famous for being oceans of knowledge, and they didn't even grow up with this. I mean, they were so powerful, they just stayed children the whole time. So this is another benefit of a brahmacharya physiologically, and in terms of your sharp memory. How do we have these incredible souls like Sutta Goswami sitting in on the first speaking of the Bhagavatam, and then repeating it verse for verse, 18,000 verses later with the sages in Naimisharanya? It means that your mind is just like a tape recorder. Can you imagine having that calm and focused, being able to focus like that? It comes from restraining the sex life. There's another set of lectures Srila Prabhupada gave on the 6th chapter of the Gita. They're known famous as the Yoga System tapes. So Krishna mentions that in the Gita as one of the things the yogi has to do. Is brahmacharya, living in a secluded place, practicing pranayama. He gives a little outline there. So when Prabhupada is speaking about that, he talks about determination that comes from celibacy. And he gave the example of Mahatma Gandhi. Now, just try to imagine yourself back. What has it been? 70 years, 75 years. They became liberated, independent in 47. So the run-up to that, it was going on for many years. I mean, in the 30s, he was building this non-violent, non-cooperation movement and everything. He had picked that idea, I think, up from Thoreau, from some of the American transcendentalists, because they had tried. Prabhupada said they had tried some armed resistance, but there were no weapons. They were cut down by the British. So Mahatma Gandhi had this idea of, well, we'll have non-violent non-cooperation. If they show violence on us, through our will, we won't retaliate. In this way, we'll get world sympathy. We'll build up our, outside pressure for liberation, independence. So Prabhupada said he had the determination to do it. Imagine, the British had been there for hundreds of years. They were completely in charge of the government. They had all the weapons. They had all the money. So what did Gandhi have? His own determination, and he had the righteousness on his side, So, but he said he became determined by giving up the sex life at a young age. He had his wife and everything, but at 35 he decided to become celibate and became so determined, and he actually was able to kick the British out of India. So that's an example. But you have these incredible souls, Narada Muni, the four Kumaras. They're super determined and super intelligent. Okay, so Prabhupada says, progeny. Now the next verse, I'm not going to read the next verse, but it's interesting because some of these sons and daughters, damba, cheating, bluffing, capital D. There's a person in charge of all the bluffing. Anyway, we'll read about that tomorrow. But this brahmachari, it's to remain brahmachari, you have to train yourself to really get the higher taste. And you have to be strict about doing those things that can lead you to lose that determination. Talking with women in a wrong way more than necessary, not being strict in your sadhana, eating too much, that can really agitate. We know this from experience. So it's a science. And the result is your determination increases, and your ability to relish Krishna consciousness increases. This is the thing. If you're making the effort, then Krishna will give you more and more relish for the holy name and everything, Krishna consciousness, and you'll feel really good about yourself. But it's a question of maintaining it over time, and you really experience the benefits. So within the Bhagavatam, we have other verses. Natatasya bhavein moho bandaschanya pasangata yoshit sangachita pangso yata tat sanga sangitaha. This famous idea of not just associating, dissociating from women, but with those who are too attached to women. Because you pick up the mood of anyone that you're with. If you really, associate with the brahmacharis, you get to serve sannyasis, you can fortify your determination to stay brahmachari. You can see the benefits and you can get encouraged. So this verse says, this is Kapila Dev speaking to his mother. There is no greater illusion and bondage than accrues to one who associates loosely with women or to those who associate loosely with women. And Krishna says the same thing in the 11th canto. He just changes one word. Instead of bandha, he says klesha, misery. Natatasa bhavein klesha, bandhaschanya basanga. There's no greater misery that will accrue than to one who associates loosely with women. So you can see what one of the roots of the problems in this society. We find it in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is saying, "Oh, if I kill all these men, the women will be unprotected, and they'll yield to a dharma, and that will produce varna sankara." Varna sankara really means children of mixed castes. You can see how refined the culture was, but it's come to mean just unwanted population. And with the way things are going now, the big oligarchs who are in charge, 3 people own more than half of the people in the United States. It's ridiculous. Bezos and who's the Microsoft guy? Gates. And was it Soros? No, Buffett, I think. They have so many billions of dollars. So what does that mean? It's that so many people are becoming superfluous. That's one of the reasons for all this homelessness. What do we need all these people for? We can use robots. Or we just send it off, the manufacturing off to Vietnam or India and pay $1 a day instead of $5 an hour or $10 an hour. So this is the demons that, the oligarchs are always doing that. So what we have is, with all of this loose association and rampant sex life, is total, degradation of the population in general. And that becomes very dangerous in a situation like this. This is where you get extremism, you get fascism. People are easily manipulable when their intelligence has been destroyed and they're always in anxiety. This is what's going on today. So it's we're definitely going against the stream. But because of the strength of Krishna consciousness, if we're strictly following the programs, we get the spiritual strength to follow the brahmacharya principles and stay strong in Krishna consciousness and simplify the life. This is the great benefit, is that if you lead a simple brahmacharya life, then when it comes time for kirtan and festivals and all these things, you can give your whole enthusiasm and intelligence to it, and you really feel the blessings of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if your mind is so involved in material things, then even though you know how wonderful Krishna consciousness is, you can't taste it the same way. Krishna doesn't give you that. That's a gift that he gives you. So another one that I like is from a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You've heard this one. This is a song joining us to worship Lord Chaitanya, the moon of the groves of Godrumadweep. This is the island on which he appeared. There used to be rivers there. They made 9 islands. So he says, Ramani jana sanga sukham chasake. Ramani jana sanga sukham chasake chadame bhayadam purushata haram. Harinama sudara samattamati bhajagold makana kundavidam. So he says, my dear friend, Bhaktivinoda singing, my dear friend, Ramani jana sanga sukham. The happiness that comes from associating with beautiful young girls. Ramani jana sanga sukham chasake. Oh friend. Chadame bhayadam means, in the end it brings fearfulness. Chadame, after some time, brings great fear. And purushartha haram, steals away your interest in the goal of life. So instead of going that route, Hadinama Sodara Samattamati Bhajagodam Akanana Kundavidam. make your mind intoxicated and mad with the mellows of Harinam Sankirtan, the nectar. Harinama Sudha Rasa Matta Matir. And in this way, the golden Makana, worship Lord Chaitanya, the moon of the rose of Godruba. So this is a very practical instruction. And Prabhupada actually started this movement on that basis. How is he going to get these wild Americans to sit down and hear and practice Krishna consciousness? Holy name and prasadam. Give them the holy name and prasadam, immediately you get the higher taste, and then you're willing to hear and go on from there, and by the strength of the chanting and other practices, they can actually become austere and bhaktas. Otherwise, to try to practice what these great sages did, go out to the forest, live alone, it's not practical. It's only practical. We need association. That's why Prabhupada always, from the beginning, as soon as he had 26 Second Avenue, he was able to set up a little sangha there, where people could get strong. And that's why it started. It didn't start uptown. It didn't start on the Bowery. He didn't have his own place. But once you have your own place, you can control the association. And that controlled association can give you more and more spiritual strength to actually practice the austerities of brahmacharya life. Okay, any questions about this point? Let's see, what other verses do we know? There's a few more. Brahmacharya Guru. Yeah, this is a list of tapasa brahmacharya na yamena cha yamena. This is a verse at the beginning of the 6th chapter, 6th canto, where Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukadev how people can be saved from the hells that he just described. And first he describes the process of prayaschitta, and like that. So this is part of that verse. Tapasa brahmacharya na yamena cha yamena is austerity, brahmacharya, self-control, moral principles, all this stuff. But actually, Parikshit says, well, that's very nice, but that doesn't uproot the sinful desire the desire to perform sins. This is kind of a part of prayaschitta, is self-control and all these things. So it's not that we're not supposed to practice tapasya and brahmacharya. We should, but in the context of Krishna consciousness. And so that's why he comes up with this story about a Jamil whose only real saving grace was that he chanted the holy name at the time of death. He had no tapasa, certainly didn't have brahmacharya the whole life. But he had the good sense of naming his sons after Narayan. And so the little boy was named Narayan, and you know the story. He chanted that, and that was sufficient to get the mercy of the Vishnu Dutas, and he got the second chance, book by the name, and he was able to go back to Godhead. So in this age, everything keys on the chanting of the holy name. This is the saving grace of this age, and we should take full advantage of it. I think I don't know if I have time, but I'm going to try to start attending these kirtans in the lounge after Sunday. Because we used to do that all the time. I think none of you were here at the time. But back in the 90s and early 2000s, after the Sunday feast, I'd sit over there with my tambura. Gange would be there with the harmonium. And we had various drummers. One time, David Deva came with his flute. He didn't have a flute. I ran back home and got my flute. I knew he was a flute player, a really good flute player. I have that one recorded. And I'd just wail away, I'd be playing the tambura. We got it mic'd. And we'd have a kirtan until 9 o'clock. And people would be... What usually happened is that, because we couldn't clean yet, so the devotees would leave gradually, just my little group there and whatever people were listening. And after a while, people would lie down, I didn't know what... I had to stop the kirtan and get it. But it was a tradition. And it was important. People got a lot, the chanting, and then they got the taste. They would get a book like that. Okay, so... one more, the verse. Mahat sevam dvara mahava muktes. This is a famous Rishabdev verse. Mahat sevam dvara mahava muktes, tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam. That by serving the Mahatmas, the devotees, one opens the door to liberation. But by association with those who associate too much with women, you open the door to hell, to darkness. So then you have, well, who's a Mahatma? Mahantas te samachitta prashanta vimanyavak suridaksadave. So he gives some qualities. Samachitta is equipoise, very peaceful. Vimanyavak, non-envious, and a friend of all, like that. This is the Mahatma's qualities of a devotee. What were you going to say?
Well, I was thinking, because we're talking about brahmacharya, so sometimes if somebody stays around for some years, or even if they don't stay around for some years, sometimes the devotee will see that there's either brahmacharis or other renunciates, right?
Renunciant.
Renunciants.
Yeah, that renunciate word is not a word.
Renunciants. And they have, you could say, difficulties, or they may fall, and they may fall quite hard.
Yeah.
And, give up that renounced position, so on. So it could be a little, at least sometimes I think, it could be a little depressing, having to see that, so many people having problems.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a person wonders about themselves. It's like, okay, well, this person had a problem, now there's so many people in problems.
What about me? I'm a sitting duck.
Yeah. What about me? And it could just be a little discouraging. So maybe you could comment on that idea of how not to be discouraged and depressed over time, because it happens all the time.
We had a big brahmachari presence here, and now it's diminished. Well, you have to be realistic, and by reading, you can see that it's not just in our current time, but there are all kinds of stories of great yogis getting deviated. So it's discouraging. That's why it's important to associate with those who are strong. Sannyasi comes and like that, and if possible, go on pilgrimage. You go to Mayapur. There's 100 brahmacharis. It's possible. There's a whole lot of brahmacharis, but it's hard because in this land that we're in, the Western world, it's completely against the grain. We're surrounded. We're like a little island here. Let's face it. One of the last places you'd really, pick if you had your druthers to start a brahmachari ashram would be 2 blocks from the Southern California beach. It's just not, And there are so many pitfalls. The preaching has to go on, but when you go and preach, there's people, some young girl comes up to the table or this or that, you have to be really strong in order to not let that bewilder your mind sometimes. So it's a question of determination and really being strict in the sadhana and learning to associate with those who have actually been able to maintain brahmacharya for some time. Like, you're much more of a miracle than me. All of you guys, actually. Well, one of the reasons was I joined late, I was 25 already. I'd already had some experience. I'd already had a couple of bitter tastes, So it was kind of easier for me. I was just naturally attracted to kirtan, and everything. I'll tell you, I was, for 2 years, I was living in the Brooklyn Temple. It never even occurred to me to get married, even though there were plenty of young ladies in there, It was just, didn't make any sense. Still doesn't make any sense. So, maybe I'm kind of an exception. But still, the principles are always there. The principle of, being strict in your sadhana, and not oversleeping, not overeating. It's a science. Satyahara Payasascha, Prabhupada explains, read the Nectar of Instruction. And if you're able to do that and practice intense Krishna consciousness and pray, Manasijapani dushte labdabatos midushte, fallen in this deep and dark and dirty well of Maya, threatened by the snake of lust whose venom burns like fire. This is a verse by Rupa Goswami, to pray to the Lord to please save you and put you in the lotus feet of Krishna, where you can relish nectar forever. So prayer is very important, strictness, association, and determination. And if, whenever possible, you take advantage of the festivals. If you can go on pilgrimage, I'm sure Dharma Kumar is going to come back. It'll be even more, shining and blissful. So it's possible to do, and we should try to do it. And of course, if there's a possibility you can get married and still be a devotee, we know that. It's not the end of the world. But sometimes it happens that brahmacharis try, and then they just explode, and they're not going into household life. They're just blooping. You don't want to do that. That was one of the reasons Prabhupada started the Grihastha ashram, because he saw as the movement expanded, people are coming. They're already boyfriend, girlfriend, and they're very intelligent, and they're devotees. So he got him married. He started the ashram, but he kept his strict principles even within household life. So the Grihastha ashram was meant to be kind of a fail-safe, a place where you can be a devotee and raise Krishna conscious children, and then at a certain point, give it up when you get older and like that. That was the idea, and it's worked for some. But let's face it, you're in the material world, it's going to be a struggle. Every day you have to pray, you have to be serious, and try to take shelter of the holy name and your God brothers, not God sisters, I shouldn't say that. Take shelter of your God brothers and pray to Radha Giridhari. We're so fortunate to have these deities. They're super attractive deities amongst all the deities I've seen, and very merciful. So, and read and discuss the philosophy. That strengthens the intelligence. I mean, that other verse that I like, Kama Dinam Katina Katida. Here's Madhavendra Puri taking a role, of a conditioned soul, says, well, for so long I've been following the impulses of my lust, etc., anger, greed, and so forth, and I can see I'm flat on my back. They've shown me no mercy. They're still, tormenting me. So now, by your grace, I've given these up. I'm rejecting them. But I know that they'll come back unless I get service at your lotus feet. So now please give me service at your fearless lotus feet. So that kind of mood of understanding the way things work and the whole mentality behind it, that helps us to be determined to not just be overwhelmed by the feelings, but understand, okay, this is the mode of passion going on here. Now I have to do something transcendental and rise above it so I can, restrain and like that. It's a struggle. But the result is magnificent. It's worth the struggle. It's the only worthwhile struggle in this world. It's self-control and advancing in devotional service.
Recently, and he was saying that, because he remembered Radhagiri, Bhakti Goswami.
Yeah.
He remembered Radha Giridhari, and he said, oh, you have Radha Giridhari there, right? And I said, yeah. He said, oh, those deities are very beautiful. He said, you should pray to Radha Giridhari. They'll protect you.
That's the idea. Hey, what is that? Hey, Radhe, this is from a song I learned, Sanskrit. Hey, Radhe, chadane bidehi shadanam, hey, Krishna Krishnam hara. It says, oh, Srimati Radharani, please give me shelter of your lotus feet. Oh, Krishna, please take away all my material desires. And there's another one about the chanting and hearing the pastimes of Krishna. Mulod kate badhayani bhavatador krishnani trishnakshayat. That it uproots this river of nectar of Krishna Katha, which includes the holy name, uproots the deeply rooted tree of birth and death by destroying the desire for anything other than Krishna. And that's what we're trying to do. The more that we deeply drink Krishna Katha and Krishna service, the more these other desires will fade away. That's the science. It works that way. Without that, there's no question of it. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.